Dr. Emily Carter wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stepped out of the hover transport. The twin suns of Kepler-7 burned bright in the orange sky, making the rocky landscape shimmer with heat waves. She had been on this research station for 8 months now, studying the mineral deposits that made this distant world so valuable to Earth's mining companies. Emily adjusted her scanner and walked toward the deep canyon that stretched before her. The other researchers back at the base thought she was wasting her time exploring these remote areas, but Emily believed the most interesting discoveries happened far from the beaten path. Her boots crunched on the red sand as she made her way down the narrow trail into the canyon, the scanner in her hand beeped steadily as it detected the usual iron oxide deposits that gave this planet its rusty color. Emily had found nothing unusual in 3 weeks of searching, but something kept drawing her back to this particular canyon. Today felt different somehow. As she rounded a bend in the trail, Emily stopped suddenly. There, in a small cave opening, something moved. She raised her scanner, but the readings made no sense. The device showed organic compounds, but unlike anything in its database. Emily stepped closer, her heart beating faster. What she saw next made her question her own eyes. A pool of deep red liquid sat in the center of the cave, about the size of a large puddle, but this was no ordinary liquid. As Emily watched, the substance began to rise upward, forming a column about 3 feet tall. The red material seemed to pulse with its own inner light, and patterns of darker red swirled through it like veins. Emily blinked hard and shook her head. The heat must be getting to her. But when she looked again, the creature was still there, and now it seemed to be watching her. She took a step back, her hand moving to the emergency beacon on her belt. But something stopped her. The creature had not moved toward her or shown any sign of aggression. Instead, it seemed curious, tilting what might have been its head to one side. Emily pulled out her recording device and began to document what she saw. As she spoke into the recorder, describing the creature's appearance and behavior, the red substance began to change color. Lighter shades of red appeared and faded, as if the creature was responding to the sound of her voice. For the next hour, Emily observed from a safe distance. The creature seemed to be studying her just as much as she was studying it. When she moved to the left, it turned to follow her movement. When she sat down on a rock, it lowered itself closer to the ground. The patterns within its body shifted and changed constantly, creating beautiful displays of red and crimson that reminded Emily of aurora lights. The most amazing thing happened when Emily pulled out her tablet computer to take notes. The creature immediately moved closer to the cave entrance, its colors brightening. Emily realized it was interested in the technology. She held up the tablet so the creature could see the screen and watched in amazement as the patterns in its body began to match the colors and shapes displayed on the device. Emily spent another 2 hours with the creature before the suns began to set. She had filled her recording device with observations and taken dozens of photos. The creature seemed to understand when she prepared to leave, dimming its colors and moving back into the deeper part of the cave. The journey back to the research station felt like a dream. Emily kept replaying what she had seen, wondering if anyone would believe her report. She had discovered what appeared to be an intelligent alien life form, something that would change everything humanity knew about the universe. Back at the base, Emily rushed to the laboratory to analyze her scanner readings and photos. The data confirmed what she had seen. The creature appeared to be composed of an unknown organic compound that could change its density and structure at will. The energy readings suggested it was not just alive, but highly complex. Emily worked through the night, preparing her report. She included every detail, every measurement, every observation. When Commander Jake Morrison arrived for the morning briefing, Emily was ready to share the most important discovery in human history. Commander Morrison listened to Emily's presentation with a growing frown. The other team members, Chief Science Officer Rebecca Hayes and Security Chief Tom Bradley, exchanged worried glances as Emily described the shape-changing creature and its apparent intelligence. "Dr. Carter," Morrison said when she finished, "these claims are quite extraordinary. You're saying you found a living creature made of liquid that can think and communicate. Yes, sir. The evidence is all here in my report. The scanner readings, the photographs, the behavioral observations. This creature showed clear signs of intelligence and curiosity. Rebecca Hayes shook her head. Emily, I've looked at your data. These readings could be explained by unusual mineral deposits reacting to electromagnetic fields. The photographs show what appears to be a pool of liquid with some interesting color variations, but nothing that proves intelligence. But you weren't there, Emily insisted. You didn't see how it responded to my presence, how it tried to communicate through color changes? It was definitely aware of me. Tom Bradley leaned forward. Doc, you've been spending a lot of time alone out there in the heat. Extended isolation can cause hallucinations, especially when combined with dehydration and fatigue. Maybe you should. Take a few days' rest. Emily felt her frustration rising. I know what I saw. This creature is real and it's intelligent. We need to establish proper contact protocols and study it carefully. Morrison made his decision. Dr. Carter, I'm ordering you to take 3 days of mandatory rest. Dr. Ross will conduct a psychological evaluation to ensure you're fit for duty. Until then, the canyon area you described is off limits. Emily stared at them in disbelief. They thought she was losing her mind. The greatest discovery in human history, and they wanted to lock her away for a mental health check. That night, Emily lay awake in her quarters, staring at the ceiling. She knew what she had seen was real. The creature existed, and it had tried to communicate with her. She had felt a connection with it, a sense that it was as curious about her as she was about it. Emily made a decision that would change everything. She would return to the canyon with or without permission. The creature was waiting for her, she was certain of it, and she would not let fear and disbelief prevent her from making the most important first contact in human history. The red creature was out there, alone in its cave, probably wondering why the strange visitor had not returned. Emily would not abandon it, even if everyone else thought she was crazy. Tomorrow she would go back. Emily waited until the night shift began before sneaking out of the research station. The corridors were empty except for the soft hum of life support systems. She had spent 3 days under watch, enduring Dr. Michael Ross's psychological tests, and pretending to accept that her discovery had been a hallucination. But Emily knew the truth, and nothing would stop her from returning to the canyon. The hover transport's engines were too loud for a secret mission, so Emily took the old ground vehicle instead. The bumpy ride across the rocky terrain took twice as long, but she reached the canyon just as the first sun began to rise. Her heart pounded as she made her way down the familiar trail to the cave. The creature was waiting for her. As soon as Emily appeared at the cave entrance, the red liquid began to glow brighter. It rose from the floor and formed the same column shape she remembered, but this time the colors were different. Soft golden patterns mixed with the deep red, creating a warm welcome that needed no words. Hello again, Emily whispered, sitting down on the rock she had used before. I'm sorry I stayed away so long. They didn't believe me. The creature seemed to understand her tone, if not her words. The golden patterns grew stronger, and Emily could swear she saw something like sympathy in the way the colors moved. She pulled out her tablet and began showing the creature different images and symbols, watching how it responded to each one. What happened next amazed Emily beyond anything she had experienced. The creature began to flow toward a small puddle of water near the cave wall. When it touched the water, the liquid began to change, taking on the same red color and moving in patterns that matched what Emily was showing on her tablet. The creature was learning to communicate through the water. Over the following days, Emily developed a routine. She would complete her regular duties at the station, acting normal and cooperative. Then, when everyone else was asleep, she would slip away to visit her secret friend in the canyon. Each meeting brought new discoveries. The creature, which Emily had started calling Red in her private notes, showed remarkable intelligence. It could solve simple puzzles that Emily created, remember complex patterns from one day to the next, and even anticipate what she might want to show it. When Emily brought a small electronic device to test, Red did something incredible. The creature flowed around the device, surrounding it completely. The screen began to light up with patterns that Red was somehow creating from inside. The device was not connected to any power source, but Red was making it work through direct contact. Emily realized she was looking at a form of life that could interface with technology in ways human science had never imagined. As the weeks passed, Red began to show Emily images through the electronic devices it touched. The pictures were strange and beautiful, showing star systems and worlds that Emily had never seen. One image appeared repeatedly, a planet with purple skies and silver oceans. Red would make the image glow brighter whenever it appeared, and Emily began to understand. This might be its homeworld, but other images were darker. Red showed her pictures of massive ships, black and angular, moving between stars. When these images appeared, Red's colors would shift to deep purple and black, and the temperature in the cave seemed to drop. Emily sensed fear in these moments. Though she could not understand what Red was trying to tell her, the relationship between Emily and Red grew stronger with each meeting. Red began to respond to her emotions, turning softer colors when Emily was sad and brightening when she was happy. When Emily accidentally cut her hand on a sharp rock, Red immediately moved closer and surrounded the wound with a thin layer of its substance. The cut healed faster than should have been possible, leaving Emily wondering about Red's ability to help as well as communicate. Emily started bringing more complex devices to the cave. A portable computer, a communications device, even a small piece of mining equipment. Red could interface with all of them, learning about human technology with incredible speed. Through the computer screen, Red began to show Emily mathematical equations and scientific formulas that were far beyond anything in Earth's databases. Meanwhile, back at the station, Emily's behavior was not going unnoticed. Commander Morrison had approved her return to duty after Dr. Ross declared her mentally stable, but her colleagues remained suspicious. Rebecca Hayes noticed that Emily's reports now contained insights and solutions that seemed to come from nowhere. Problems that had puzzled the research team for months were suddenly solved in Emily's daily work. Tom Bradley began following Emily's movements more carefully. He noticed her taking longer routes during routine surveys and returning to base later than necessary. When he checked the vehicle logs, he found that someone had been using the ground transport during night hours. Tom reported his suspicions to Morrison, who ordered increased monitoring of all team members. Emily sensed the growing attention but could not bring herself to stop visiting. Red, the creature, had become more than a scientific discovery to her. It was a friend, perhaps the most intelligent being she had ever encountered. Red seemed to understand human emotions and responded with what Emily could only describe as care and concern. During one particularly meaningful encounter, Red showed Emily something that changed everything. Using the portable computer, Red displayed a star map of the local galaxy. It highlighted several systems with the same silver and purple colors Emily had seen in the image of Red's homeworld. Then, one by one, those highlighted systems went dark. Emily stared at the screen, beginning to understand. Red was not just an alien visitor. It was a refugee, possibly the survivor of some terrible disaster that had destroyed multiple worlds. The dark ships in Red's fearful images suddenly made more sense. Something had attacked Red's people, and Red had escaped to this distant world. Emily reached out slowly and touched the surface of Red's form. The creature responded by wrapping gentle tendrils around her fingers, and Emily felt a warmth that went beyond physical temperature. This was trust, friendship, and perhaps something like love between two completely different forms of life. "You're not alone anymore," Emily whispered. "I don't know what happened to your people, but you're safe here. I'll protect you." Red's colors shifted to the warmest gold Emily had ever seen, and she knew her promise had been understood. But neither of them realized that the very forces Red had fled from were already moving through space toward their quiet world. Drawn by signals they could not yet detect, the peaceful days of discovery and friendship were about to end. The alarm in the research station began blaring at 0600 hours, jolting everyone from their sleep. Emily rushed to the command center along with the rest of the team, her heart racing with worry. She had just returned from another secret meeting. With Red, and the creature had seemed more agitated than usual, its colors shifting between deep reds and alarming purples. Commander Morrison stood before the main display screen, his face grim. Long-range sensors have detected multiple large objects approaching our system. They're still 3 days out, but their trajectory suggests they're heading directly for us. Rebecca Hayes pulled up the sensor data on her workstation. The objects are massive, Jake. Each one is at least 5 times larger than our biggest Earth ships. The computer can't identify their design or origin. Emily felt her blood turn cold. She remembered the dark, angular ships that Red had shown her through the computer screen, the images that had filled the creature with such obvious fear. Could these be the same ships that had destroyed Red's homeworld? Tom Bradley studied the tactical display. Their approach vector is too precise to be natural. These aren't asteroids or space debris? Someone is piloting these things and they're coming here for a reason. Dr. Ross adjusted his glasses nervously. Maybe they're explorers like us. First contact doesn't have to mean danger. Morrison shook his head. I don't like it. The way they're moving suggests military precision. I'm sending an immediate report to Earth Command and raising our alert status to yellow. Emily wanted desperately to tell them what she knew, but how could she explain without revealing Red's existence? Her colleagues already thought she had suffered a mental breakdown. If she started talking about alien refugees and destroying fleets, they would lock her up for good. Over the next 2 days, the approaching ships grew larger on the sensors. The research station's small crew worked frantically to prepare for whatever was coming. Morrison ordered all non-essential equipment to be packed for emergency evacuation. While Tom Bradley tested their limited defensive systems, Emily could barely concentrate on her assigned tasks. Every few hours, she would slip away to check on Red, and each time the creature seemed more distressed. The usual warm colors had been replaced by dark purples and blacks that pulsed like a warning beacon. Red kept showing her the same images over and over. The dark ships destroying world after world, silver oceans turning to ash, purple skies going dark forever. On the second night, Red did something it had never done before. Instead of waiting, in the cave, the creature had moved to the canyon entrance as if watching the sky. When Emily arrived, Red immediately flowed toward her and surrounded her feet. Its colors flashing in rapid sequences that Emily had learned meant urgent communication. Through the portable computer, Red showed Emily new images. The approaching ships were definitely the same ones from its memories, but now the images included tactical information. Red was showing her weapon layouts, shield frequencies, and attack patterns. The creature was trying to warn her about what was coming. Emily stared at the screen in horror as Red displayed the fate of other worlds that had faced these ships. Entire civilizations wiped out in a matter of hours. Planets stripped of resources and left as dead rocks floating in space. The creatures Red called the Devourers showed no mercy to any form of life they encountered. Why are they coming here? Emily whispered. How do they even know about this place? Red's response chilled her to the bone. The creature showed her energy signatures, the same type that had led the Devourers to other worlds. Red's own crashed vessel, buried deep in the canyon, was still sending out faint signals that the enemy could detect across vast distances. By hiding on this world, Red had unknowingly marked it for destruction. Emily felt tears streaming down her face as she understood the full situation. Red had survived the destruction of its homeworld only to bring the same fate to the humans, who had given it shelter. The creature's colors shifted to the darkest shades Emily had ever seen, communicating grief and guilt that needed no translation. But as Emily watched, Red began to change. The dark colors gave way to something else, a deep crimson that pulsed with determination. Red started showing her different images now, not memories of destruction, but plans for defense. The creature was analyzing the research station's systems, calculating defensive modifications, preparing for war. Emily realized that Red was making a choice. After centuries of hiding, after losing everything and everyone it had ever known, Red was choosing to fight. It would not let the Devourers destroy another world without a battle. Back at the station, The final day of waiting had begun. The alien ships would arrive within hours, and Morrison had made the difficult decision not to evacuate. Their transport ships were too slow to escape, and Earth was too far away to provide help. They would have to face whatever was coming with nothing but their small research facility and its basic defensive systems. Emily sat in her quarters staring at the photos of Red she had taken over the past weeks. In a few hours, she would have to reveal everything. Her secret friend, her incredible discovery, the bond they had formed, and the terrible danger that was about to destroy them all. The team that had called her crazy would learn that the truth was far worse than anything they had imagined. She thought about Red, alone in the canyon, preparing for a battle that would determine the fate of everyone on this world. The creature had already lost its home, its people, everything that had given its life meaning. Now it was ready to risk its own existence to protect the humans who had rejected it without ever knowing what it truly was. Emily made her own choice in that moment. She would stand with Red, no matter what happened. If these devourers wanted to destroy this world, they would have to face not just an alien refugee, but a human scientist who had learned that friendship could bridge any gap between species. The final hours of peace were ending. Soon, the research station would become a battlefield, and Emily would have to convince her colleagues to trust the creature they had dismissed as a hallucination. Their survival would depend on accepting help. From the very being they had refused to believe existed, Red was coming to save them all, and Emily would make sure they listened this time. The alien ships appeared in orbit just as the morning shift began. Commander Morrison called an emergency meeting as the massive vessels took positions around the planet. Through the station's telescopes, they could see dozens of smaller craft launching from the main ships, heading straight for the surface. Emily sat in the command center with her heart pounding. The moment she had been dreading was finally here. In less than an hour, she would have to reveal Red's existence or watch everyone die in ignorance of what was really happening. The lead ship is sending some kind of signal, Rebecca Hayes reported from her station. But it's not in any language our computers recognize. Tom Bradley checked his weapons display. Our defensive systems are ready, but they won't last long against ships that size. We need to consider surrender. Surrender too. What? Morrison asked grimly. We don't even know what they want. Emily stood up, knowing she could not wait any longer. Commander, I need to tell you something, all of you, about what's really happening here. Morrison turned to her with tired eyes. Dr. Carter, this is not the time for another report about your canyon discovery? Before Emily could respond, the lights in the command center flickered. The computer screens began showing strange patterns of red and gold that pulsed in rhythm. Everyone froze as a warm, musical voice filled the room through the speakers. Humans of the research station, the voice said in perfect English. I am the being your Dr. Carter discovered. The ships above belong to an enemy that has destroyed many worlds. They have come here because of me, and I will not let them harm you. Red flowed into the command center through the ventilation system, its crimson form moving like liquid while maintaining the shape of a tall column. The research team jumped back in shock, but Emily stepped forward to stand beside her friend. This is Red, Emily said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The creature I tried to tell you about, it's here to help us. Morrison stared at Red with wide eyes. That thing is real. You weren't hallucinating. My name translates roughly to Crimson Song of Deep Waters, Red said through the speakers. But Red will serve. I am the last survivor of my species. The approaching enemy destroyed my home world and countless others. They are called the Devourers, and they show no mercy to any life they encounter. Rebecca Hayes found her voice first. How does it speak in English? How does it know our language? I have been learning from Dr. Carter and your computer systems for many weeks, Red explained. My people could interface directly with any technology. I have studied your databases and understand your situation. Tom Bradley kept his hand near his weapon. If these Devourers are here because of you, why should we trust you? Red's colors shifted to darker shades. Because I choose to stand and fight rather than run again. I have lost everything once. I will not lose my new friends without a battle. The tactical display showed the enemy landing craft getting closer. Morrison made a decision that would change everything. "What do you need from us?" Red immediately began interfacing with the station's computer systems. Technical diagrams appeared on every screen, showing modifications that could strengthen their defenses. "Your weapons use simple energy projection. I can enhance them with bioorganic improvements that will make them more effective against Devourer." "Shields," Emily watched in amazement as Red worked. The creature sent parts of itself through the station's systems, upgrading everything it touched. The defensive barriers became stronger. The energy weapons gained new targeting systems that seemed to predict where enemies would move. Most importantly, Red created new weapons that combined human engineering with alien technology. "These modifications are incredible," Rebecca breathed, studying the data. "The power efficiency alone is beyond anything we've ever seen." Red had created something unprecedented, a fusion of two completely different approaches to technology. Human innovation combined with alien knowledge to create defenses that neither species could have built alone. Dr. Ross stared at Red with scientific fascination. "Your species can manipulate matter at the molecular level. That's how you're upgrading our system so quickly." "My people were scientists and explorers," Red replied. "We believe knowledge should be shared freely. The Devourers believe only in consumption and conquest. That is why we could not defend against them alone." As Red worked, it explained the enemy they faced. The Devourers traveled from system to system, strip mining entire worlds and enslaving or destroying any intelligent life they found. They had been expanding across the galaxy for thousands of years, leaving dead worlds in their wake. "But they have a weakness," Red continued. "They rely too heavily on their advanced technology. When that technology fails, they become vulnerable. I have learned to disrupt their systems from within." Emily realized what Red was planning. "You're going to interface with their ships directly, aren't you?" "If necessary," Red confirmed. "But first we must survive their initial assault. They will not expect resistance from a research station." The station's new defensive systems came online just as the first enemy craft entered the atmosphere. Red had worked for only 2 hours, but the transformation was complete. The peaceful research facility now bristled with hybrid weapons that hummed with alien energy. Morrison took his position at the command station. "All personnel to battle stations. Today we fight not just for our lives, but for our world." Emily stayed close to Red as the creature prepared for battle. The being that had been dismissed as a hallucination was now humanity's greatest hope for survival. Red had chosen to reveal itself and risk everything to protect the humans who had given it a home. "Thank you," Emily whispered to Red, "for trusting us." Red's colors shifted to warm gold. "Thank you for believing in me when no one else would. Together we will show the Devourers that some bonds cannot be broken by fear or destruction." The enemy ships began their descent toward the station. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin, and for the first time since the aliens had appeared, Emily felt hope. They were no longer facing the unknown alone. They had an ally who understood the enemy and the technology to fight back. Red pulsed with determination as the first shots of the battle lit up the sky above them. The first Devourer landing craft hit the planet's surface with the force of falling meteors. Emily watched through the station's monitors as dozens of black ships landed in a circle around their facility, each one unloading strange creatures that moved like shadows across the rocky ground. "Enemy forces are surrounding us," Tom Bradley reported from his tactical station. "I count at least 200 hostiles approaching from all directions." Red had split itself into multiple smaller forms, each one manning a different defensive position throughout the station. Emily could see parts of her friend flowing through walls and corridors, coordinating the defense with incredible speed. "First wave incoming from the north," Red announced through the communication system, "activating enhanced barriers now." The station's new defensive shields flared to life just as the first enemy weapons fired. Instead of the simple energy barriers they had before, Red's bioorganic improvements created layered defenses that absorbed and redirected the incoming attacks. The Devourer weapons, designed to overwhelm basic shields, were stopped cold. Morrison coordinated the human defenders, while Emily served as Red's primary liaison. Her months of learning to communicate with Red now proved invaluable as she helped translate between the creature's rapid tactical adjustments and the human team's need for clear instructions. Red says the Eastern approach is their weakest point. Emily called out, "They're not expecting our weapons to have adaptive targeting." Tom Bradley's enhanced weapon systems locked onto the approaching enemies with impossible accuracy. The bioorganic modifications Red had made allowed the guns to predict enemy movement patterns and adjust their fire accordingly. Devourer soldiers that had survived countless battles found themselves unable to dodge weapons that seemed to know where they would be before they got there, but the enemy adapted quickly. The second wave of attackers came with heavier weapons and better shields. Energy blasts that could have destroyed the old research station hammered against Red's defenses, causing the bioorganic barriers to flicker and strain. "Shields at 60%, Rebecca Hayes reported. "They're learning to counter our modifications." That was when Red revealed its most dangerous ability. Part of the creature suddenly launched itself from the station, flowing across the battlefield like a crimson river. Emily watched in amazement as Red infiltrated one of the enemy landing craft, disappearing inside through what looked like a solid hull. Within minutes, the ship's weapons turned against its own forces. The Devourer craft began firing on its companions, sowing confusion and panic among the attacking troops. Red had taken control of the enemy vessel from within, using its ability to interface with technology to turn their own weapons against them. "Incredible," Dr. Ross breathed, watching the captured ship decimate an entire squad of enemy soldiers. "It's hacking their technology using its own body as the interface." The battle raged for 3 hours, with Red demonstrating abilities that amazed even Emily. The creature could divide itself to defend multiple positions, repair damaged systems faster than the enemy could destroy them, and even board enemy vehicles to sabotage them from inside. Every time the Devourers adapted to one tactic, Red would reveal a new capability, but the most shocking moment came when Red made contact with something unexpected. During a brief lull in the fighting, Red's colors suddenly brightened to an intense gold that Emily had never seen before. "Dr. Carter," Red said through the speakers, its voice filled with emotion Emily didn't know it could feel. "I am receiving signals from others? Other survivors of my people scattered across the galaxy. They have been watching this battle." Emily felt her heart skip. "You're not alone?" "We were never extinct," Red explained as it continued fighting. "We were scattered, hiding, afraid to reveal ourselves. But your courage, your willingness to stand beside me, has inspired others to act. My people are beginning to fight back across multiple star systems." The implications hit Emily like a thunderbolt. This battle was not just about saving one research station. Red's decision to stand and fight had triggered a galaxy-wide resistance movement. Hidden survivors of Red's species were emerging from hiding to battle the Devourers on dozens of worlds. "The enemy is receiving reports from other systems," Red continued. "Their forces are being attacked simultaneously across their empire. They are being forced to divide their attention for the first time in centuries." Morrison grinned as he watched another enemy ship fall to Red's infiltration tactics. "You mean we're not just defending ourselves? We're part of a coordinated counterattack." "Exactly," Red confirmed. "And the Devourers are not prepared for resistance from species they thought they had destroyed. Their arrogance has become their weakness." The tide of battle turned decisively in their favor when Red demonstrated its most impressive ability yet. The creature had been quietly studying the enemy's command ship in orbit, learning its systems and weaknesses. Without warning, Red launched a part of itself skyward, using some form of biopropulsion Emily didn't understand, through the station's telescopes. They watched as a streak of crimson light reached the enemy flagship. Within minutes, the massive ship began firing on its own fleet. Red had taken control of the Devourer command vessel, turning their most powerful weapon against them, the remaining enemy ships, confused and leaderless, began retreating from the system. The few ground forces that survived the battle fled to their remaining craft and escaped as quickly as possible. After hours of desperate fighting, the research station stood victorious. Emily found Red in the main laboratory, a creature having reformed into its original column shape. But now the red substance sparkled with flecks of gold and silver, colors Emily had never seen before. "You did it," Emily said, approaching her friend with a mixture of exhaustion and joy. "You saved us all." "We did it," Red corrected, its colors shifting to warm appreciation. "Your species fought with courage I did not expect. You stood beside me when you could have surrendered. That bravery has awakened hope across the galaxy." Tom Bradley joined them, his weapons finally powered down. "Those reports you mentioned from other systems?" Red's colors brightened. 17 Devourer fleets have been engaged simultaneously. My people are no longer hiding. We are fighting back, and we are winning. Emily realized she was witnessing the beginning of something much larger than first contact. The research station had become the catalyst for a galactic war of liberation. Red's decision to trust humanity and humanity's decision to trust Red had sparked a rebellion that would change the balance of power across the stars. The battle was over, but the war for the galaxy's freedom had only just begun. 3 weeks after the battle, the research station buzzed with activity unlike anything it had ever seen. Ships from Earth arrived daily, carrying diplomats, scientists, and military officers who wanted to meet the alien ally that had saved humanity's first deep space outpost. Emily watched from the observation deck as another transport ship settled onto the newly expanded landing pad. The transformation of the station had been remarkable. What started as a simple mining research facility was now becoming humanity's first interstellar diplomatic center. Red had helped expand the complex using its bioorganic construction techniques, creating new buildings that combined human architecture with alien technology in beautiful and functional ways. Emily found Red in what had become its favorite location, the newly built communications center where it maintained contact with other survivors of its species across the galaxy. The creature had grown larger and more complex since the battle, incorporating new colors and patterns that Emily was still learning to understand. "How many today?" Emily asked, settling into the chair Red had specifically shaped for her comfort. 43. "New contacts," Red replied, its voice now coming from speakers grown from its own substance rather than the station's original systems. "My people continue to emerge from hiding. The Devourer defeats have given them courage to reveal themselves. The results of their victory had exceeded everyone's wildest hopes. The simultaneous attacks on Devourer fleets across 17 systems had crippled the enemy empire's ability to maintain control over their conquered territories. Species that had been enslaved for generations were rising up in rebellion, aided by Red's people who could infiltrate and sabotage the enemy's technology. Commander Morrison entered the communications center, carrying a datapad with the latest reports from Earth. The United Nations Security Council has approved the establishment of the Kepler-7 diplomatic station. He announced, "Dr. Carter, they're offering you the position of Chief Xenobiological Liaison." Emily looked at Red, whose color shifted to encouraging golds and blues. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means you would be humanity's primary representative in all dealings with Red species and any other aliens we encounter," Morrison explained. "You would be our first xenodiplomat." The irony was not lost on Emily. The woman who had been called crazy for believing in an impossible creature was now being asked to represent humanity in its first formal diplomatic relationships with alien species. Red's colors sparkled with what Emily had learned to recognize as amusement. "Your colleagues have recommended you highly," Morrison continued. "Dr. Hayes says your insights into Red's technology have advanced human science by decades. Tom Bradley credits you with saving all our lives by maintaining the communication link during the battle." Emily thought about the journey that had brought her here. From that first encounter in the canyon to standing as humanity's bridge to the galaxy, Everything had changed because she had chosen to believe in the impossible and stand by a friend when no one else would. "I accept," Emily said. "But only if Red agrees to work with me officially." Red's response was immediate and warm. "I would be honored to serve as ambassador for my people to humanity. Your species has shown us that cooperation and friendship can overcome fear and prejudice." Dr. Ross and Rebecca Hayes joined them, carrying reports from the various research projects that had grown out of Red's shared knowledge. The bioorganic technology Red had introduced was revolutionizing everything from medicine to space travel. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries were being cured with Red's healing techniques. Spacecraft designs that combined human engineering with alien biotechnology promised to make interstellar travel faster and safer than ever before. "The most exciting development is the communication network," Rebecca explained. "Red's people can create instantaneous links across any distance. We're talking about real-time communication between Earth and the outer colonies." Red had explained that its species existed as both individuals and as part of a collective consciousness when they chose. Through their bioorganic communication system, knowledge and experiences could be shared instantly across the galaxy. They were offering to include humanity in this network, creating the possibility of a truly unified galactic civilization. Tom Bradley brought news of the military situation. Devourer resistance is collapsing on 12 more systems. Red's people are coordinating with local resistance movements to liberate enslaved populations. "It looks like we're winning this war." But Emily noticed that Red's colors had taken on subtle darker tones. "There's something else, isn't there?" "The Devourers are retreating toward the galactic core," Red confirmed. "They are consolidating their remaining forces for what my people believe will be a final, desperate assault. The war is not over." Morrison studied the tactical displays Red was generating. "What kind of numbers are we talking about?" "Perhaps 1,000 ships, all of their remaining military assets," Red replied. "They will choose one strategic target and attempt to destroy it as an example to others. My people believe that target will be Earth." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's homeworld, with its billions of inhabitants, would face the concentrated fury of a dying empire that had nothing left to lose. Emily felt fear grip her heart, but then she looked at Red and saw determination in every shifting pattern of its colors. "You have a plan?" "We do," Red confirmed. "But it will require the complete cooperation of multiple species, including yours. The final battle will be unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen." Emily stood up, feeling the weight of her new responsibilities settling on her shoulders. As humanity's first Xena diplomat, she would help coordinate the defense of Earth and potentially the liberation of the entire galaxy. The scared scientist who had once doubted her own sanity was now a key figure in the greatest conflict in galactic history. "Then we better get started," Emily said. "We have a galaxy to save." Red's colors brightened to the brilliant gold that Emily had learned meant absolute confidence. "Together we will show the Devourers that the age of fear is ending. The species of this galaxy will stand united, and we will build something beautiful from the ashes of their empire." As Emily looked out at the stars through the communication center's windows, she thought about how First Contact had turned out nothing like the movies or books had predicted. It had not been about superior aliens coming to uplift humanity or conquer it. Instead, it had been about two different forms of life finding friendship in the darkness and choosing to stand together against the forces that would destroy everything good in the universe. The greatest adventure in human history was just beginning. And Emily would help lead the way into a future where the impossible had become reality and friendship truly could overcome any obstacle. Red pulsed beside her with colors of hope and determination, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The stars were calling, and humanity was finally ready to answer.